Hi, and hi to
Hi.
everybody. We're live on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube,
Woohoo.
and maybe some kind of pirated channels around the world. So I'm Chris Grimm, and I'm here with my co-founder, Karuna Merchandani. My partner in crime is what I usually call her. And we're here today to talk about one of the cool things that we're offering at avi.me, but we thought that we would share some personal experiences because this thing in particular, the drama of it, it's a
I
buildup.
know. You're just totally building it up. Such a
Yep.
teaser.
So we're going to talk about hypnotherapy. We're going to talk about it with a little bit more terminology and stuff as we move forward. But first, just in case you don't know us, like I said, my name is Christine Grimm, and I'll let Karuna introduce herself in just a second. I am the founder of ARIA Consulting, where we've been doing consulting and executive coaching in the corporate environment all over the world for 24 years. That feels like a long time. It is a long time. Yeah, and a number of years ago now, I think it's been 6 years. I was thinking about this the other day, Karuna. I can't, it's maybe 5 years. Anyway, we were interested in expanding what we were doing. A whole bunch of things were changing, actually, but made two things. One, we were interested in doing some things related to more women, because in the corporate environment, which is, by the way, where I met Karuna, because she has been our client twice on the consulting side, and we became fast friends, as you're going to be able to tell here in a few minutes, and started concocting things together. And one of the things that we noticed, which is why Avi was born, AVVI, if you haven't visited more than our Instagram account, the website is avvi.me. We offer coaching, group coaching, self-paced programming, content, ebooks, etc. And that was born, and you'll notice it is has a lot more feminine characteristics than our consulting business does, because one of the things that we both have experienced a lot in the last 24 years, of course, was that in corporate, especially in the executive coaching, there weren't a lot of women for a long time in the executive ranks. So we were mostly coaching and working with men, which is fabulous, by the way. And I don't want to ever give that up, but it is different. And so we started thinking about, well, wait a minute, if we were to serve women, how would we do that differently? And of course, we had a lot of ideas from our friends and our clients and family members. And so now we really have a great suite of what I call suite of services. And one of them is hypnotherapy. And a lot of people don't understand why we added that. So before we just jump into that, I'm going to let Karuna introduce herself so that our collective story hopefully makes sense to all of you. And maybe some of our story is your story. So you'll see kind of why we think this is important, and you might be interested.
Cool. Thanks,
Take
Chris.
it away, Karuna.
Thank you. I'm also, Chris, you forgot the voice of aria.com and
Oh,
Aria
right. How
Coach
could I
and
forget that?
Avi.
Right.
Come on. That's my latest addition, right, to my
Yeah.
resume. Anyway, thank you, everybody, for joining. As Chris said, I was in-house working a corporate executive life for about 20 years, and kind of got tired of the rat race, and was pretty much a workaholic, and it was time to make a change. And so about 7 years ago now, decided to leave the corporate world, and didn't really know what I wanted to do, but started consulting with Chris, and kind of partnered with her, and continued some of the corporate consulting. But as she said, kind of veered into other things. And I'd always been interested. I had actually done a lot of meditation and energy work in my corporate world, because I had used them as tools to kind of get through my corporate life, because I was working crazy hours, traveling quite a bit. And so meditation, energy, healing, such as Reiki, etc., was what I kind of leaned on to get me through those really tough times. And so when I stopped working, I kind of leaned in more and did a deeper dive, and kind of got certified in Reiki, with the intent really to do it on myself, not really to do it for others. But And then also got certified in some other energy healing techniques, and realized that, this was really beneficial. And as Chris said, we were looking for other modalities, other offerings for women. And I had a lot of friends and acquaintances who started kind of coming to me and talking to me about this. And so I started practicing and started doing stuff with them, and found that it was incredibly fulfilling and was really effective, more importantly. And so that's how we kind of got started. And then in addition to energy and Reiki, it kind of led me down this path of hypnotherapy. Actually, the technique really is rapid transformation therapy, which is a form of hypnotherapy. So we'll talk about that. And then kind of got certified in that. And so really excited to talk to everybody today about what that is and how that can help, and see if that even resonates for some of you. So I'm really excited to have this chat with Chris.
Yeah, so let's just get right to the drama around this. So many years ago, I just want everybody to know this because we're going to just put it out there because there is a thing. And the thing is that hypnotherapy, not RTT. So forget what Karuna just said for a second, because we're going to come back to the stuff we're offering. But hypnotherapy has a bad rap a little bit because people historically have used methods like hypnotherapy and NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, even other forms of therapy to manipulate people. And so if you've ever been to Vegas, you can actually go to shows where they hypnotize people like on the stage. Have you ever done that?
I have not. I've gone to the shows,
Yeah.
but I have not volunteered. I'll tell you, when I do this therapy, there are people that first question I get asked, Chris, is, "Are you going to make me quack like a duck?
Right.
Is that what you're gonna have me do?" Yeah.
Look, this is completely the thing, right? So I was going to say to you and everybody, what's interesting, because even now when we talk to people about our suite of services, people usually look at what Karuna is offering at Hobby, and it's energy healing and hypnotherapy, RTT. And they're like, what just happened? And what does that even have to do with the other stuff that you guys do?
And more importantly, Chris, people who know me from my corporate career are like, who are you?
Right.
Who is this person? Right. Because it was not my thing in corporate. Well, I did all of that in private. Like I did the meditation, the energy, all in private, right? Never really outwardly spoke about it. Right?
Look, you came out of the closet with energy and RTT work. Well, it's really interesting too, because I don't remember you saying this, but Karuna is an engineer by training too, by the way, you guys. So she talk about organized, straight-laced, and like no fancy stuff, which is why all of this probably feels wacky to people. But I want to get back to the taboo part of it, because frankly, that's real. People have been manipulated. So when I did not go through any training like Karuna for hypnotherapy, I did get certified a long time ago for the consulting business and coaching to do rapport building and what's called neuro-linguistic programming. It's a cousin to hypnotherapy. It means learning how to use words and phrases to suggest things deep into your subconscious and help a person or manipulate a person, frankly, or sell something to people. These are widely used kinds of methodologies. And like I said, there are people who use them to embarrass people, to take advantage of people, sometimes to really mess people up. So the reality is you do have to understand what you're paying for and who you're working with. You do need to look for reputable practitioners, no matter what you're doing. I think most people know that. I hope you know that. We'll just continue to support that because anytime you're going to let someone in to do the most meaningful work, you should know who that is and what they're doing. And so, getting to where we are today, one of the ways. And first of all, by the way, we didn't go shopping to offer this as a service. I was seeking out, now, so I'll just use my personal story and then come back to Karuna. So here's how this works, right? So most of us have been pretty much programmed that if we're going to get help, or at least historically it's been this way. I think right now it's a little different, but you can get therapy, talk therapy. You can get other types of therapy like psychotherapy and or coaching. And then, of course, there's like subliminal programming. There's all kinds of programs out there that most of which have the same claim, right? They're going to help you do something different. And so oftentimes, I'm sure you've all seen them, people apply that to things like helping you lose weight permanently, helping to stop smoking. That's a big one. And so talk therapy can't always get you the kind of change, right, that the more invasive or involved methodologies do, because talk therapy most of the time is, you intellectually talking to a person from your conscious mind, right? So the part of you that is attached, to what's happening, your senses are connected to that. And it's very much grounded oftentimes by the narrative that our ego either wants to believe or needs to believe. So back to why I did it, I got to a point where I started to realize that one of the things I was working on, and by the way, it was limiting beliefs around business, believe it or not. So we're actually here, and I wanted to share this because ironically or not, I was really like stuck in a narrative about myself that the corporate coaching and working with men was kind of where I was supposed to stay, and that investing in and building businesses or building lines of business or products outside that was either going to be a waste of time or a distraction or something that I didn't know how to do. And it really bothered me because I tried a few times and frankly failed. And really was down because I had, wasted money, time, energy, blah, blah, blah. All those things that happen when we all of a sudden shame ourselves, etc. And a therapist that I was working with at the time basically had said to me, keeping talking about the same story over and over again isn't actually most likely going to help you fix this, because the story is actually what's kind of keeping you stuck. You might want to look into something that gets kind of into the subconscious beyond that story. And that was really compelling to me. So I did some work with a woman named Marissa Peer, and Karuna was familiar with her too. And I have to tell you, it was probably one of the best investments I had ever made. Unlike what some people do with talk therapy or coaching, and then I'll pass it to you, Karuna. I just want to say to everybody, my experience with RTT, hypnotherapy, it was like a spot treatment, right? It was fairly quick. It was fast. It was really fun and easier than I thought. And it completely changed the game for me. So that's one of the reasons I'm in support of us helping anybody who's interested in it. Karuna, I'll let you tell your version of this adventure.
Yeah, you brought up Marissa Peer, who of course is, for those of you who don't know, she's a world-renowned speaker, therapist, best-selling author. I think she's authored, I don't know, 5, 8 books, however many. And she has decades of experience as a therapist. And she started her career as a therapist and realized, her own story is posted out there, but basically what she realized was she took the best, the most effective pieces of neuro-linguistic programming, cognitive behavioral therapy, and psychotherapy, and took all the best things and put it together to develop this new kind of therapy, which is rapid transformation therapy, RTT. And as Chris was saying, the best part of RTT is that it really does a deep dive and it's quick. Marissa always says, well, we all say, right, the mind is a really complex thing, and it takes a long time. It could take a lifetime to understand how it works and what the pitfalls are. And she always says, who the hell has a lifetime to work shit out? Right. Yeah. So that's really, it was like, okay, well, let's do quick, effective training. But my personal story, I had I think the first time I had seen her was on Mind Valley. And she had done this talk. And again, as Chris said, it was really compelling because she was really fun. She was engaging. It was light. And I thought, and I myself, because this was after I had left my corporate life and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, but I too was stuck in a story of, I didn't really know how to move on. I didn't know how to move forward. So I had this 20-year-old story stuck in my head about who I was supposed to be. And I played that role really well. But then in this new world, I was kind of lost and had very old belief systems that I was sort of rooted in and couldn't get out of my own way, right, to move forward. And so I took a couple of her courses, and again, I think very quickly, like in the span of 4 to 6 weeks, really kind of just reframed my thinking or changed my perspective, completely changed because of the courses that I had taken, and sort of set me on this path that, you know, has been incredibly fulfilling since then. So I'm eternally grateful to her and RTT because it sort of it just kind of set me on this new path. So it was sort of compelling. And for a couple of years, I really wanted to get certified because I thought, wow, this could be so beneficial to a ton of people. And as a coach, as I do some coaching, it was just one more tool, if you will, that I wanted to add to my toolkit, you know, which was how I was really kind of drawn to it.
Yeah, you just said some things that are important, and there are people watching on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Welcome, everybody. I just want to make it like super clear why we decided, not just because we had great personal experiences, but to add it to kind of, what do we call it? Our portfolio of services? I don't even know. Whatever.
Our suite of services.
Suite of services. Is because what we're finding, and by the way, I think it's actually in some ways the same for men than it is for women, but it's different in the way it works out. And so let me talk about Avi and women, since that's what we're doing today. But for those of you who are watching who are not women, or who, connect more to masculine characteristics, I should say, we find this super important because one of the things we know about more feminine or female people is that we often ruminate a lot, and rumination means that we think about stuff for a really long time over and over again. Then we talk to other people about it. Women are social in nature. We have a lot of words to use in a day. And what that does is it reinforces whatever narrative you're in. So if you're mad at your spouse, or you hate your job, or whatever's going on in your life, women tend to actually make it worse for themselves and actually deepen your beliefs about it by talking about it more. So adding talk therapy or even coaching to that is why we looked at one point and we're like, whoa, like, what are we doing? If people are coming to us and they're paying us to help them make change, well, then we've got to have to offer some types of products, programs, services that are going to break that cycle, that are going to do something so different that, first of all, they're going to have to decide they really want change to make that decision, right? So to get out of the box and try something brand new like that, especially if it feels scary to you or you've heard bad things about it, takes a little bit to get your brain there. And then to actually do it, is kind of a pattern interrupt, which is, if you haven't heard that term before, anyone, I use it a lot in our programs and in coaching, because that's what we want, right? Your life is a whole bunch of looping patterns, right? Your relationships with people at home and work, your family members, your mom and dad, your whole life is made up of patterns and loops. And we just loop through those things. Well, when you're miserable, and you don't want that same old stuff anymore. Like when you get to that point where you're done, I don't want to do this anymore, right? Great. So what you're really saying is, I want to interrupt that pattern and choose something new. Sometimes people do that by getting a divorce, quitting their job, moving to a new city. That's a big radical pattern interrupt. It's not always what you need to do, though. It doesn't always have to be that radical. If in fact you started to understand and get comfortable with alternative modalities or therapies, right? So that's why we wanted to offer it, because sometimes, I'll just be super frank about this. The more I started coaching women, not just Karuna, by the way, but other people, the more I started to realize what I was just saying, which is, oh my gosh, one of the reasons people stay so miserable is because they're afraid, because in their mind, they've made the pattern change into this gargantuan apocalyptic thing.
Well, yeah, there's that rooted belief system, right? It's because your mind, your mind's only job is to protect you, right? It does what it thinks you want it to do. So it does everything that it believes is in your best interest. And that is a belief system that starts really early on. It's stuff that happened in your childhood, and our memories, our experiences are shaped by those experiences that happened when we were kids. And so it does, and it forms a belief system that in the moment when you're a child or when you're younger, it works. But as you grow older, the belief system is kind of set, and then it just gets reinforced year after year after year, right?
It's true. I want to say something that's really important, because I've actually had at one point in time, like a conversation even with your mom about it. And Paula, if you're listening.
Hey, Paula. She's listening.
But Karuna lives with her mom and all of her mom's awesome friends. So we get to enjoy that multi-generational conversations.
Benefits of wisdom and age.
It's wisdom. It's a lot of wisdom. And hopefully they can help us not make the same choices sometimes, sometimes not. Anyway, my point is that generationally, people are programmed in certain ways. And for those of you who are listening, whether it's you or people, and I know you do, who are over the age of 45 right now, anybody over the age of 45, that includes us, were programmed by generations before us, many of whom immigrated, struggled to make money, worked super hard in their life, in physical blue collar jobs. All of that also oftentimes had programming around, what it should look like in your life. And a part of that story I hear from many people, and I have it myself too, is understanding that we were taught to kind of endure, to kind of like live through and push through the problems.
Correct.
And, I am all for endurance, actually, and tolerance. What I am not for anymore, and I hope most people can start to see the difference, is that sometimes people didn't know where the boundary lines were. And so many people often will say, in fact, I have some women now who I'm coaching who are closer to 60s, and they've just made major change in their life. Some of them were thrust into that change, either being terminated from a job, or their husband left them, or a loss of a child or parent, some big thing in their life. And then all of a sudden they feel this big identity problem. Right. And one of the reasons that happens is because they know they stuck with the old narrative for a really long time, even though they might have been miserable and or just afraid to address the issues related to that were their own. Mm-hmm. And
sometimes you don't even know that that's happening, right? You just don't, you're not even aware that is old thinking or negative belief system or whatever. So
no, it's completely true. Yeah. And that's, why I brought it up. I'm like, look, RTT to me is like one of those, like I said, spot treatment, if you will,
completely,
that can help with that, right? If you are so stuck and now you're in a place, I don't care how old you are actually, but you're in a place where you're like, oh, I can't make that change because like everybody in my family will be mad at me. Or, you know what I mean? Like what that is culturally inappropriate for me. My gosh, like think about all the times we've had conversations with people where there's just a whole, they believe there's a whole wall in front of them of forces keeping them where they are. And some of that might actually be true. But what we find is when you peel it back, a lot of it is part of the story that you have made up in your head. And so what RTT can do, like I said, is get past this narrative story that you would be talking about all the time and help you just make a little tweak in there that sometimes makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's and I think you had said this earlier on, Chris, is that it can fix it can be a balm for a lot of things, right? It could be if you have certain phobias, if you are addicted to foods, for instance. I mean, people have used RTT for a whole bunch of reasons, and it has been incredibly effective. Marissa has had a lot of success in this kind of therapy. And I want to be able to move people forward, right? I think that is really what the goal is here, is if you feel stuck in your life, or if you're making the same decision over and over again, over the years, and I know what that feels like. We make the same decision over and over again, expecting a different outcome every single time. Well, that's not going to work, right? There needs to be behavioral change. You have to do something different to get a different outcome. And when you're stuck in that negative belief system, or a belief system that you are completely addicted to, well, you're not going to behave differently. Right. It doesn't lend itself to that. So RTT, I think, goes in to undo that and kind of, I don't want to say reprogram, but really that's what it is. It's undoing that. It's reprogramming it. It's having your subconscious mind think about it differently. Right. Yeah. It's breaking down that old belief system.
Can you actually share a little bit about what the experience is, so people understand that it is not going to be like in Vegas when they take someone out of the audience and make them squawk like a chicken?
Absolutely. It's the whole so let's talk about one session, right? It's typically about 90 minutes to 2 hours. If those of you who have done guided meditation, if you know what that feels like, it's for me, I basically kind of put you in a trance, and that sounds scary, but you're completely aware. It's really very similar to a guided meditation. I'm speaking, you're kind of in your mind, you're like following along with me. And I get you to a very relaxed state. You have your eyes closed. This can be done via Zoom. And Marissa, I think, calls it Zoom therapy, which is great. It's as effective as it is when you do it live. And once I've got you in this kind of relaxed state, I start asking you, as the practitioner, questions. I sort of take you back to some of your childhood scenes, and you are completely aware. People ask me, what does it feel like? Well, people are very relaxed, and you're just having a conversation with me. You're just telling me, I'm asking you specific questions, and you're literally just kind of recounting some memories. And some people are afraid of that because they say, well, am I going to get scared? Am I going to start crying? And I've had clients who get emotional, but the important part is you're not reliving that experience from your childhood, right? You're just kind of recounting the story. It's like you're watching a movie and you're just telling me what's happening, right? So it's really,
that was my experience, was that I almost felt like I was watching a movie. Keep going.
Totally. Yeah. That is, now that doesn't mean that it's not going to elicit maybe a couple of tears here and there, or, it can get them. But again, I don't want people to be afraid of it, because most everybody who I have done this with has come back and said, oh yeah, it was cathartic. It was great. It was great talking about it. They're shocked at the memories. Sometimes, some of these memories you don't necessarily think about every day. Some of them haven't even thought about it for 20 years, right? And it kind of comes up in that context. And so it's really a conversation. And then I sort of again do some. It's about talking through. I'm having the conversation with your subconscious mind, because that's where the memories are. That's where the belief systems are rooted. So I'm trying to undo some of that. And you're participating in this. You're talking to me. In fact, you the client, you're kind of telling me about the certain situation, and we're kind of walking through it and talking about it. And then it ends with, I do another sort of 10, 15 minute, another sort of guided meditation thing, which I record for you. That is the audio that is recorded. And as part of this therapy, it is highly recommended that you listen to this recording for about 21 days after the session, because it is about reinforcing. It's very similar to guided meditation, but it's reinforcing to your subconscious brain that we have actually done some tweaking there. Mm-hmm. And that recording kind of is very specific about the situation that you've come to me for, right? So so that's kind of the critical piece as well. So it's a 90-minute session. Now, can you get cured, or can you get fixed in one session? Not necessarily. It depends on the issue. Sometimes it takes 2 to 3 sessions. It really is dependent. But I will tell you that anecdotally, the feedback that I've gotten from my clients is that they feel relief. They feel like a weight has been lifted off their shoulders pretty soon after the session. So there is, it doesn't necessarily, is not a complete fix initially, but there's a dial down, right? So if somebody comes to me, for example, if they have a lot of anxiety, so we work on that, because we find out, okay, well, where did that anxiety start? What is the root cause of that anxiety? And I tell them, it's not going to completely go off. It's not like tomorrow you're going to be completely, you're not going to feel anxious, but it dials down just the intensity of the anxiety.
Yep.
Right.
It's super subtle. By the way, you got a question. Does this involve ayahuasca? We can talk about that in a few minutes. And no, by the way, everybody, we're not, we are not certified, nor do we do programs with plant medicine. So I think that's funny.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, not at this moment. Anyway, so let's talk about this, because it is super subtle, but I want to come back, because I know there are people who are like, well, I would never do that. I had the exact experience that she just outlined. And I think for some people, this might resonate for you, which is, it doesn't feel dramatic. I did, like she said, felt like I was watching a movie a bit, totally awake. Did feel like guided meditation more than I didn't feel like I didn't even feel like I was like in a trance. I didn't feel sleepy. I didn't feel any of those things. I was awake. I was running through the picture in my mind that Marissa was guiding. And I did get a little emotional a few times. I actually got more emotional re-listening and to the recording, Karuna, like you said, for 21 days. I did that, and it made me more emotional later than it did on the day of the first time we did it. And then the shift was subtle, but I knew it. So as you were talking about it, I just wanted to say that to everybody. So it's not like a light switch, right? Like, it's not like the next day you are a totally different person, or you make a completely different choice. It is more, I think Karuna got frozen. So I'll just keep going until she's back. But, as you're thinking about this, and, coupled with coaching or therapy, I think it's really powerful, so that you have someone to kind of bounce it off of and notice and reflect on the subtle shifts. Because I can say, not just for me, but some of our clients, when Karuna's back, I'm sure she can share more. It is that it's like one day you feel different about the thing that you were anxious about before. And like before, your anxiety might have been a 10. And then maybe all of a sudden it's like a 6 or a 7. And then you start to notice that you start to re-listen to your recording or start to talk with your coach or your therapist about it or anybody about it, the narrative starts to change, right? So I come back to my own experience, which had a lot to do. And, Marina South just put a great comment. She said, that's exactly, subtle shifts over time are transformative. Yeah, that's actually, I think, some of the best way to make transformation versus that radical change that I described earlier. And if you guys weren't with us, what I was saying is a lot of the women that I work with, who spend a lot of time maybe in a relationship they don't love or a job they don't love, and they're resentful about it because they stayed and mad at themselves and maybe shameful about that and feeling like I could have been free. I shoulda, woulda, coulda. And I have to stop them and say, whoa, 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 let's just calm it down. Let's get in a different place where you're okay with incremental, subtle shifts, because that is where some of the deepest transformation happens. And hence the reason that we added something like this, because if you can start to experience, welcome back, Karuna.
Thank you.
I was just talking about subtle shifts, and we had some great comments that I also talked about. Marina said subtle shifts over time are the most transformative. Eugenie just said, yeah, it's beautifully unceremonial or unceremonious. It's completely
That's
true.
So true. Right? So true.
And Marina just said we have to walk before we run. Yeah. So anybody who's thinking about it, those are beautiful ways. Thank you, awesome people, for kind of, bringing some words to this, because that's exactly, Karuna, when you were gone, I was saying that I went from like a 10 anxiety level about investing in Avi, about building this curriculum that was for women, by shifting from everything I believed about coaching for 24 years that was mostly in a corporate environment, to shifting to helping people holistically in their life. But for me, that was such a big jump, and it didn't have to be a big jump. Right. So after the RTT process, if you remember, I was like, no. So I went from like anxiety 10 to, when it got down to about a 4 or 5, I just felt myself easily making different choices.
Totally.
And I didn't have that like anxiety overthinking anymore. Like it just,
there's a calmness.
I could replace it with something else.
Right. Right.
I can overthink.
No, but it's so true, right? There is a calmness in how, and you don't, it's so subtle, as Eugenie, whoever said that, but the subtleness is the key. And I always tell my clients, just pay attention, right? Because if you're paying attention, you'll catch it. You'll notice it sort of when you look back, and you don't even have to wait like a month. You can just look back a week and you realize, oh, something has shifted. And that's really what it's about, right?
Look, I love it. I think it's fantastic. I don't know how much more we want to say. I know people are busy and need to get on with their day. But I hope people are willing to try it. So maybe we should just talk about that. Karuna, like if somebody actually wants to try this, what are some options?
Look, in fact, on May 14th at 9 a.m. Pacific, I think, I'm actually doing a session for the Avi Collective, and I'm going to actually do a little bit of RTT with whoever joins. So that's sort of the first time. It's a week away. It's a week from Friday, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to check, but there'll be more information. So if you want to just do a toe dip and see what it feels like, or 2 weeks. Sorry. Thank you, Heather, who's puppet mastering on the back end here. So yeah, May 14th, 9 a.m. Pacific time, there'll be more information. And of course, I am offering the package. It's called Enough Already. It's a package of 2 RTT sessions. You get some meditation, you get a little bit of talk therapy. It's a month-long sprint. And so if you're willing to dive in and do it, sign up. It's online right now. But like I said, if you just want to toe dip and see what it feels like, May 14th, 9 a.m. Come join us. It'll be a fun one.
We picked that name so that for someone it would resonate immediately, because that's who we are. Like we literally get done with something and like, enough already.
And moving on.
We didn't hire any marketing people for that. Actually, we just used our own words.
That's correct. It is correct.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
Okay, well, I think that's it. And Shasti hasn't even barked today. That's my dog, everybody. And usually by the end of our thing, she's telling us that but she's snoring. So,
and there's no printing going on in the background, so that's good.
There's nobody printing.
We just had my Wi-Fi die in the middle of this, so all things considered, awesome. All good. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to having you join us.
Yeah, and have a great weekend. Have a great Friday. Have a great everything, and join us in some way at avi.me. And by the way, if you're not ready to jump into coaching or any programs one-on-one, or that feels like too much to you for any reason, we do have a really affordable membership where you can just try everything. That's the idea. A little bit of everything. A smorgasbord. A buffet, whatever. Anyway,
you're using big words this morning, Chris.
Without me being able to say these big words for that, we're just going to say thank you to everybody, and we'll see you back here soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Hi, Sabina.
I need to put my glasses on to read the